Ladies and gentlemen, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to the Daniel Tolson live stream. Today we are joined by Greg Riley, TV celebrity and recognised as Australia's most gifted psychic. Greg, welcome to the live stream.
Welcome.
Hello, Daniel. Good evening. Thanks for having me.
Well, nice to see you here. We've been following you on social media, and I was watching the TV show The One, hosted by Andrew Daddo. And throughout the tests they put you through, you came out on top as Australia's top and most gifted psychic. What an incredible achievement!
Yeah, it was full on. It was basically, I think it was about 4 months worth of testing prior to that. Even to get to the show was a series of tests, and then getting on the show was like, here you go, bang. You have to perform in front of a live audience and a studio, and there's no, can we take it again? It's like, nah, yeah, that's it. There's your take. Away you go. So it was pretty cool, actually.
Like, one of the things I noticed was that you were being judged and critiqued on your talent. And we're going to end up talking about self-sabotage today. And a lot of people don't want to be judged. They have a fear of criticism, a fear of rejection. But here you are on live television being judged for your psychic gifts. How did you feel about that?
Look, I was okay with it because a lot of the stuff, look, I didn't do. Like when they did the tea leaf reading, that was my first job. I had never done it before. So I was just going, well, I might have a crack at it and see what happens. But I think that you need to have some confidence about who you are, and you need to have that attitude, I suppose, to go, well, I'm just going to have a go with it. I'm going to have some fun with it. And if they judge me, that's more about something that's happened rather than who I am as a person. Because I obviously believe that I come from integrity and doing to help people and have obviously thousands of clients who I've helped. It wasn't a go at me or my integrity or who I was as a person. It was just a task that I may have not done very well in. And I did one that was like hopeless. It was a dog there. I thought it was an acting dog. It was actually a sniffer dog. I got it completely wrong, right? And it was a Labrador. I should have known it was a sniffer dog, right? But you just can't take it personally, the fact that it's a task. It's not who you are as a person internally. So that's sort of the way that I saw it, that I come from integrity and I help people through my therapy and psychic stuff. And it wasn't directed at me as a person. That's how I sort of took it.
We were talking offline and you were saying that there can be up to a 5-year wait to work with you. And it tells me that this type of work is really important. Why would somebody wait up to 5 years to see someone like yourself with a psychic ability?
Yeah, good question. Look, people just, sometimes when they come and see me, it's right there and then. But I think people want to know, are they on the right track? So even in 5 years later, they can still think life has changed a bit, but everyone wants to know, am I doing what I'm meant to be doing? Is there something else I'm missing out on? Is there something that I should be learning, or is there something that I need to learn further in this relationship or this work situation or these patterns? Or because patterns are, as you know, through people's lives, patterns are patterns. People continue to do them through human nature for the majority of their life, right? So what's probably 5 years ago, there's a problem. If they haven't addressed that, will probably be an issue in 5 years in the future, unless they've worked on it. So you usually get the same stuff coming up, but I think for anyone who is worth their weight in gold, you usually just wait.
Well, Daniel Spear, thank you for joining us. You're in Melbourne. Greg's also in Melbourne, and make sure you head over to his website. And Daniel, I know you'd love to have a one-to-one with Greg. Now, my wife's a big fan of going to the psychic. I used to read tarot cards years ago, and she was my number one client.
Yep. So many questions.
Why would you see a psychic?
I think from, with the culture that I'm from, we as a Buddhism, we believe the God, but also the spirit, from the other side of the world. So we kind of combine those two things. We respect the God, the Buddha, but also respect the spirit. So sometimes the different message, from the psychic, usually, for example, in Asia, if you're sick, usually they will go to ask the psychic first, oh, is something wrong with me? What should I do? Before they decided to go to see the doctors. So actually this role is play a very important role in our society. So that's why sometimes when I have confusion, instead of making up my mind, I will say to my husband, hey, can you help me? Can you do a tarot deck and tell me what should I do?
Which of two handbags to buy, Greg? And it's really funny because I'm a believer and a disbeliever. And I believe in it, and I also believe that you should test it. So I'll say to Nini, go and ask the Buddha, and she'll go down and she'll get a no. And then she'll say, let's go to the other temple. I'm going to say, why? She goes, I just want to go do some more praying. And she'll go from temple to temple and to temple. And it's interesting to watch because if the Buddha says no at one temple, she goes to the second one, it's another no. She goes to the third temple, it's a no. Then the feet get really heavy.
They're angry.
And she walks back home.
Yep.
So how did you know you had this gift? How did it first come about that you were aware that you had this gift?
Oh, I was Catholic, so I mean, very just don't go there from a Catholic perspective. But I was very intuitive as a kid, and I used to do what's called astral travel. I used to be able to, leave your body, walk out the house, down the end of the road, through a portal, and then arrive in another place on the earth, right? And that was just normal for me. Then I went through, obviously, my teens, high school, sort of lost it from that perspective. Got back into work and had pretty much everything. So I had the job, the money, the house, the car, the girlfriends, the whole lot. And it was pretty much empty inside. So I went back to meditation, martial arts, mindfulness, and it sort of unlocked what I had as a child again. So I always had this intuitive ability, but I sort of shut it down because, as a man, you're sort of told that success is based on what you own and what you have, right? So I went back down that path, and that opened it up again and even more, and that sort of just shifted in that way. And then that became sort of my way of life of being really connected to the spiritual side and working with your guides and your higher self and understanding consciousness. So we did a whole raft of understanding what consciousness is, what the nature of reality is, why we come here. And it was just a snowball effect of just learning and yearning about this information and knowledge and wisdom. And from my early 20s, it just sort of really started to ramp up. And so I started reading when I was about 22, 23 for people on the side because I worked in banking, right? So that was really good. I was in a suit one day and then on the other side I was reading people. But I really knew that I had something as a child, but didn't realise it was abnormal to a certain perspective. So I was sort of bornish with a gift, but I'm sort of like a fan of everyone can play piano. Everyone can learn to play the piano. But sometimes people are just born freaky like Mozart, Beethoven, and that they can just play naturally. That's the way I sort of see psychic ability, intuitive ability. Everyone's got the ability to be able to tap into intuition because namely you're a spiritual being first having a physical experience, right? So everyone has that ability. It's just some other people are better at it than others. And that's just the way it is, right? But everyone's intuitive. Everyone uses it every day. They just don't realise it.
So you had this ability, you're working in the bank and you were responsible for millions and millions of dollars of accounts. Did it ever feel like a conflict to you to have this gift and not to be pursuing it fully and to go to the bank?
Yes. And that's because I suppose at that stage I saw it as a gift and I just thought, well, here's my as a 21, 22-year-old, you're climbing that corporate ladder and that's a good experience. And I just did on the side just for a number of years just being like that. And it wasn't until I suppose I got to my late 20s I started to take it really seriously and think, well, actually this is a bit of a calling because there was more and more people wanting to actually go, geez, Greg, you did this for me, you picked this and you picked that. And it started to really snowball at that stage. So I think I really took it seriously in my late 20s. But again, when I was my early to mid 20s, I was pretty much just career focused. And I think that I balanced it quite well because I didn't really know what I wanted to do at that stage. And that was really the finding myself or finding what I wanted to do as well too, right? So I look back now and think I didn't really think at that stage I was doing the wrong thing by having double life, I suppose. But yeah, it wasn't until after the show would really push me into here is your life right in front of you. Right? So.
Now, I look here and I see your symbol here as a fox, and my wife wears a fox god charm. Have you got it on?
Yes.
Let's have a look. What does the symbology of the fox mean to you, Greg?
So that came to me in an ayahuasca ceremony. I was doing one of those, and basically it came to me as my totem. And the symbology of the fox was to be to see behind the scenes, to see what's going on behind other people, to see the story that they're telling you. It's not to see the front, but see behind them. So the fox to me symbolizes it's telling the story behind the scenes that people have, to tap into their subconscious mind, or their what their front is showing, for me to be able to tap in behind that and see what's really going on.
Mm. When you talk about that, I think of the card of the High Priestess sitting in front of the two pillars, and you can just see a glimpse of that water behind her and that subconsciousness.
Yeah.
Fascinating. Now, you've got this gift. How do you use the gift? How do you use this to help people have a better life, to help have them to break through their mental and emotional blockages?
Yeah, so I'm quite well known not to tell people what they want to hear. So it's about telling people, or just giving advice to people. I honestly believe I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to give you insights as to, here's your options and here's the possible outcomes for you based on where you're at right now. But also to be able to tap into those things that are holding you back, or those things as to what patterns are inside your life, as to why those things have happened, or why did you choose that relationship, and what are you growing from that relationship? What are you learning from that? What are you learning from having that boss that actually is smashing you every single day about getting to work, and what are you learning through that? So I'm not a big fan on the whole predicting kind of thing, because I think that takes away people's right to make a choice for themselves. Even though I still predict stuff, I'm very much about helping people understand what journey they're on, why they're there, what their patterns are, what their beliefs are, what their negative programming is, and all that stuff jumbled together helps them unlock this puzzle that's themselves, and then give them the ability to go, okay, well, if you want to move here, let's move that way, but here's what's blocking you from doing that. Here are the programs that are stopping you. Here is why you chose your father to be alcoholic and not speak to you, and what you're learning on a soul level. It's I love that part, which is really good. So it helps people unlock what's really happening in their life right now, and helps them move forward as well too.
Now, on the show, the one, you were given a task and you had to find a car in a car parking lot. Yeah. And a couple of your intuitive hits was you saw a number plate with the letter A.
Yep.
And you also saw a certain colour car and two other cars behind it. And your intuition at that stage took you right to the front of that vehicle. Mm-hmm. And you stood in front of it. And then you said, I have a feeling about this one.
Yep.
And you reached out with your hand.
Yep.
And then you walked down and you turned left and you went down another row and you saw another Holden. But there was no A on the number plate. And then you came back to your original one. Yep. What was happening there with your intuition?
Do you want to tell you what goes on behind the scenes of reality TV?
Oh, yes, please.
I went straight there and I went, that's the car. And they went, that's too quick. I went about 35 seconds or something. And they went, that's just, can you just walk around a bit, look like you're confused? So I did. So that's a bit about reality TV. So I just went straight, that's the car. I think that's it, right? So the way they edited it was the fact it took me, a minute and a half to get there. In reality, it was just like, that's the car. Opened the boot. I went, can you just walk around for a bit, make sure
can you just pretend? Can you just pretend nothing is good?
So there was a couple of instances like that where you've got to think that the mistake I made at the start, they were very early challenges, that I was just being psychic, and I forgot that it was actually about TV and it was about entertainment. So as they go along, I became much more versed at making it about entertainment, not just going straight to where it needed to be, right? So that's a little bit of the secret behind the scenes.
Well, they would have loved you on the helicopter one, because at least with the helicopter one, you had to trek through the forest for a bit. But you were on point. They dropped you here.
Yeah.
You had the pull of the cloth and you went straight towards the helicopter. I mean, that was phenomenal.
Yeah. It was strange because we when you're running through, and there was down the right-hand side, it was all downhill, and it's clearing out to the right-hand side. And it was actually very tempting to go down there because you thought, well, that's where a helicopter would be, because where I ran was just thick bushland, right? So I went, well, no, I might as well just keep going where I feel. And then, 3 minutes later, I found the helicopter, and it was like you're having an out-of-body experience. I didn't really realize I found it. It was just like I was in my body, but I wasn't. And then I just saw propellers and went, hey, look, I found it. And it just, from there, you kind of just get the confidence that, yeah, you can do that. Because I never really look for stuff. Most of my stuff's, my relationship's gone to the crapper. My job's not doing so well, and I've got some other issues going on. No one's ever asked me to find a helicopter in the bush, right? So these are all first time kind of things, right? So yeah.
So a lot of the stuff is mundane questions, but then in this situation, you really got to test your ability.
It was really good. I enjoyed it because it was actually out of your comfort zone. I love being in a stage where you can really push that envelope of, well, we haven't done this before, so let's see how we go, right? So
there was another one there, and you picked up on Mrs. Whelan, the Whelan case. Now, that was quite interesting because I went to school with this family, and I looked at that and I went, wow, and you went straight to these mine shafts, but the other psychics went all around the mine shafts as well.
Yeah.
And you stood next to one specifically, and you said, I feel her standing next to me.
Yeah.
How do you feel that as a psychic, intuitive, clairsentient, clairvoyant, clairaudient? How do you sense this?
Well, like you said, it's all just a feeling, but it's a gut feel. It's a very much a feeling of, I've got a presence here with me, but it's also a feeling like you've got a real sickness about you in your stomach because of the way that person passed. It's quite obviously violent and not very well. It wasn't a very good thing because you're walking past a thing. You're just walking. You feel okay. Next minute you bother, your stomach falls apart and it just falls down, and you go, "Oh God, I'm going to throw up." There's your feeling of, oh, something that's happened right there. And then you look around and you go, okay, there's a mine shaft right next to me. But there's also the thing is that you got to understand that the person who's the alleged person who's perpetrated the incident was also heavily overweight, couldn't probably carry her a long way, needed to be near a track, and needed to be near something that would give him access to hide her for a very long time. So there's other things that come into play as well too there as well. So but that was with that, it's you're feeling the fact that your stomach just falls right out basically.
And so everybody has these abilities. Why have you chosen to develop yours and not to switch it off and ignore it?
You can't. It's a calling. You try and walk away from this and see what happens. You try and walk away from your live streams and see what happens. You'll keep coming back to you, right? So when you've got a mission, and I believe we've got a great ability to help people make their lives better, you just can't walk away from that. That's a soul connection. That's something that's deep within inside of you. You just can't. Go and work at go and work at Macca's or something like that, right? It's just there's no purpose. This is a thing that captures your whole body. And when you see people, I get letters from kids, especially when I do the men's health stuff, is that having a letter from a 9-year-old child saying that, before my dad saw you, my dad used to come home, he used to be drinking all the time, he used to be grumpy at us, and I was afraid of my dad, and we used to be in tears all the time. My mum and dad used to fight. And then to get a letter from her saying, thank you for saving my family, thank you for saving my dad. He comes home and he plays with us now, he's happy, he doesn't drink anymore. And his mum and dad are so happy now, we've got a great life, and they've got another baby on the way. That's why you do it. That's exactly why you do it.
That's inspiring. And I really like you said that. I just can't turn it off. I really love that. Yeah.
Shove it down.
So awesome. So awesome.
Now, a lot of people do sabotage their own success, and this is a field that you specialise in. We've been through COVID-19 this year, and you said that you're super busy. Why are people sabotaging now more so than before? Or has it just come up to the surface that they're locked down in their house and they've got to spend 24 hours a day with themselves?
Yeah, I see COVID as being, it's been so good for a lot of people because it's given everything that wasn't working in their life up, especially around health and well-being and mental awareness. It's been like this thing going, hey, let's just push it all up to the top of the surface and go, this is what's not working in your life. And I find when people with that self-sabotage, it's the education part, because a lot of people I speak to, when I say, do you know what the subconscious mind and the conscious mind is? And they kind of look at me blankly and go, what are you talking about? I thought, you know that basically your whole program is from 0 to 7, and 95% of your programming is subconscious, 5% is conscious, and you're trying to fix things with willpower. They've got no clue. And that's the thing. So people are creatures of habit as well too. They would love to do things that are easy. There's things that keep them safe. And when things come up that are actually showing them the shadow or showing them the dark, those things to be fixed, they tend to just want to be in that space that's safe, right? So when people self-sabotage, it's fear. It's fear of the unknown. It's fear of, well, I can't do this, or fear of I'll never be any good, or fear of I'm not enough. Or the other self-sabotage is your friends and family. That's a big one, massively. That don't you go
in the bucket.
Yeah, I'm happy in my crap here. Don't go and actually be happy, because we can't have that.
We talk about that as crab mentality, and I ask my clients in big groups, have you had crabs before? And they think I'm talking about STDs. But I'm talking about family members, because what happens is with crab mentality, it says, if I can't have it, neither can you. Correct. And what happened was the fishermen were out fishing and they had cray pots and they were catching crabs, and they'd catch a crab and they'd put it in the bucket, and they'd realise that if you didn't tie the crab's pincer up, it could put itself, little pincer outside of the bucket, and pull itself out and scuttle away to freedom. But then one day they put 2 crabs into a bucket without tying up their pincers, and they realised that every time one crab went to get out of the bucket, the other one pulled it back down. And that's where the crab mentality came from. If I can't have it, neither can you. And this is huge. In Australia, we've got the tall poppy syndrome. We've got keeping up with the Joneses. We've got the underdog and the little Aussie battler.
Yep.
And that sabotage is there from families, the ones we love the most, from friends. Oh, shit, what if Daniel drives the Range Rover? He's going to get all the looks and not me. What if he gets the new house and I don't? Gee, better sabotage him.
Is I don't deserve. That's a massive, massive one. I don't deserve happiness. I don't deserve. So whatever they're, but they understand that that's their programming that's been placed on them about I don't deserve to have this. And then they realise that they'll self-sabotage every single time to fulfil that belief. It's like a light bulb goes off, but most people are just unaware of the fact that they self-sabotage because of a subconscious belief.
We talk about this in our work, that only about 36% of the population are aware of the thoughts that are going through their mind at any given moment. And we've got 90,000 thoughts a day, both consciously and unconsciously, and it kind of makes sense. You know, if you've got all that junk there, just delete it. Delete that. Focus on this. Yeah. And it makes a lot of sense. Now, you mentioned the shadow just a couple of moments ago. What's the shadow, and what are you doing to bring this to light in the months ahead?
Well, so I was always a big Star Wars fan, so I love the hero's journey side of things, and the stuff that's brought through Joseph Campbell and the abyss and the dark night of the soul. I believe we all must address our shadow, and we always have a shadow. Every one of us has a dark and a light, but we must address the shadow in a way that comes from love, and it comes from a place of not shaming it or guilting it. Because we all have to have the shadow, because the shadow makes us do things. The shadow makes us achieve. The shadow makes us deliver in some areas. Whereas if we're all light and love, we don't learn a lot, right? So the shadow is a very vital part of us. So we actually allow people to embrace the shadow and not guilt it or not shame it, and see it for what it really is, the growth. And we help people really address that and then come out of that, dark night of the soul and atone for that and come back into society and have their rite of passage through that. And when they actually come out of that, they're changed. They're just a different being altogether, which is great.
It's interesting. One new insight can change your life. And when I grew up, I always was told it's if you've got a strength, use it and don't worry about your weaknesses. Until I met a gentleman in the UK, he said, Daniel, it's not what you know that hurts you. It's what you don't know that hurts you. And I thought, it's so true. What don't I know about myself? And I think if we can all start to appreciate that we do have a dark side and a light side, and it's not good or bad, right or wrong, it just is, we can accept it and we can move forward.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What's your dark side, wife?
My dark side? Great questions.
Other than being too cute.
Handbag.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining us. For people who want to follow you on social media, they can follow you there at Greg Riley. They can also go to your website, gregriley.com.au. Now, before we let you go, Greg, 3 quick questions. In your life, what frustrates you the most?
People who don't acknowledge what their life's about. They don't take responsibility. That's what frustrates me. Take responsibility for your life.
And through your journey of discovering your gifts, using your gifts, what one mental or emotional block has held you back?
Self-belief. Absolutely. Yeah. And when people kind of say, you look confident, but tell you what, there's some days there where I just went, I'm no good at this. So self-belief was one of them. Yeah.
And for somebody who is struggling with self-belief at the moment, what advice would you give them knowing what you now know?
Be kind to yourself and actually do the work. Just absolutely, you only learn confidence by doing the work, and just take a leap of faith and just go at it, because failure is growth. Don't look at failure as being a negative. Failure is something to embrace. So have a crack.
Words of wisdom.
Love it.
Beautiful. Greg, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to share your story of being on television, to developing your skill, and now to helping men across the country. Really appreciated.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you for joining us. Ladies and gentlemen, we will see you again on Monday, 3 p.m. Taiwan time or 6 p.m. Sydney and Melbourne. Greg Riley, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you head over to gregriley.com.au right now. And if you can, you might be too busy, I'd go ahead and I'd book in a session with him straight away. I know my wife will be. Thanks, Greg. Have a wonderful day. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll see you soon. Ciao for now.